Welcome to SAM Conversation, an online program of South Asia Monitor. I'm Col Anil Bhat. We are going to discuss the four-horse campaign recalling 1971. It is my pleasure to introduce to you three officers who took part in that war. Brigadier Jasbir Singh, Sena Medal. Brigadier PS Butalia and Brigadier PS Sandhu. A few words about the regiment. I think it will be relevant to mention that out of the 1.5 million Indian ranks that took part in the First World War and were a very major war-winning factor, one of them was four-horse, then known as Hodson's horse, and it fought in almost every single sector, in every single theater of the First World War, earning praise from all its commanders, brigade commanders, divisional commanders. In the Second World War, it was in the process of mechanization and got a number of tanks and armored vehicles one by one. Then came 1965, when Pakistan was feeling very heady with a lot of armaments, a lot of armory, which had been acquired from the United States. And it is also relevant to mention that in 1965, the dictator president of Pakistan, General and later self-styled Field Marshal Ayub Khan, his father, Risaldar Major Mir Dad Khan, was of Hodson's horse. And it is ironic that this regiment in 1965 destroyed the maximum number of Pakistani tanks compared to any other regiment in any other war. 79 tanks, 17 recoilless guns. Come 1971, I will cut it short by handing you over to Brigadier Jasbir Singh, who was commanding Bravo Squadron and who had a bet with his flanking squadron commander of Charlie Squadron, late SJS Chowdhury. Brigadier Jasbir sir, that who would cross, because Hodson's horse, four-horse, led the Indian Army's movement assault across the IB into Shakargarh. All yours, sir.
Thank you, Anil. As far as B Squadron Hodson's horse is concerned, it all started on 15th of August, well before the operations actually started. I was on a spot of casual leave in Simla when on 15th August, I was asked to come back to the regiment immediately. So I said I'll be back by night, but I was told, no, come back immediately. I packed my bag, put it in my car and drove down and was back to Butiala by about 1 o'clock. I was told that the squadron had already been mobilized. They were in the process of mobilization and that the squadron would be leaving that evening for unknown destination. We had the squadron mobilized and we loaded onto tanks about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. And we found that by 4 o'clock, we were brought to our destination, which was Madhapur. I was familiar with that area because I had taken part and was the advance party leader even in 65. So we dismounted, moved into our dispersal area. For the next month or so, we were there just doing preparations and getting up our drills. Thereafter, for the next month, we were placed under command 39 Infantry Division to give protection to the main highway between Pathankot and Jammu, and also to act as the armor support to 39 Infantry Division in case of any incidents. After that, we were tasked again with 54 Infantry Division, and we were attached to 91 Infantry Brigade, commanded by Brigadier Sandhu, with the task to eliminate a border observation post of the Pakistanis, which had deep observation right into our area, and thereafter support a limited offensive by the brigade. Again, on 4th of December, we were asked to hand over this task to B Squadron Pune Horse, which will be commanded by then Major Amarjit Mal, who was a good friend, and report back to the regiment. We were told no move to take place during daylight, and all move. We had the secondary road, which was the towards Samba. It was also jam-packed. We started our move at 6 and reached our location at 5 in the morning, driving the whole night. There had been heavy going for the drivers and the commanders. On reaching our location, I told the squadron to break off, to take a few hours rest till further instructions, and to prepare the tanks with FOL and ammunition so that we were prepared for any further operations in case directly. I was told that I was to attend the CO's orders at 8 o'clock, which I attended, came back to the squadron by about 11 o'clock, and this was on 5th of December, and I was told that B Squadron would be the leading squadron for the core offensive. I gave my instructions to my troop leaders and told them to get their tanks ready and stow accordingly, as we would be leaving our present location by 5 o'clock so that we could cross the international border by 6 in the evening, as it used to get dark by then. That evening was a dark evening, and as we crossed the border, there was a lot of broken terrain, and we had 2 casualties by way of tractions. Because the Centurion was a heavy tank, and in the broken frame, the track had got dislodged. However, we continued the advance. We were to continue the advance till a landmark called Bhairo Nath Temple. This temple was approximately 6 to 8 kilometers within Pakistan territory. There, in the area of Bhairo Nath Temple, we saw 2 Pakistani tanks. A mild engagement took place. They were both destroyed, and we captured 5 Pakistani soldiers. These tanks apparently must have had a problem with their DNM system, and hence could not start and were left behind. The people staying behind were the crew members whom we captured and made prisoners. From Bhairo Nath Temple, we were to assume a 2-up front with C Squadron on the right and B Squadron on the left. I must mention over here that the B Squadron column was very large. Not only was it the squadron alone, we also had an engineer squadron with their complete equipment, which was tremendous and hence slowed down our complete move. As we kept moving further, at about 4 o'clock in the morning, C-Squadron reported that they had hit a minefield. We came to a stop, and C-Squadron promptly asked that the engine equipment be sent to them so that they could make a lane in the minefield. This complete changeover took a certain amount of time, but the engineer squadron started moving towards C Squadron, and we started advance. After another half an hour, we also hit the same minefield. But since the engineer trail had already gone on to the C Squadron axis, they were permitted, and they made a lane by early morning at dawn. Since the construction of the lane had been daylighted, it was not considered wise to cross the lane and establish a bridgehead on the other hand, as we had expected a serious armor reaction, and we would be on the wrong side. So for the next 24 hours or so, we were our own side. During this period, C Squadron was instructed to move towards the western side or the northern side and get on to the Chakradwara Nadi. There we moved in, and as we moved forward, we encountered the Supwal ditch. Landmarks were villages Darman and Chamrola. For the next 3-4 days, we were there, and we continued to encounter a whole lot of potholes, which we used to keep firing, and zero in our guns. I used to send 2 troops at a time. The 2 troops would stay there the day, come back, and the next day, the next 2 troops, so that they were all suitably zeroed in. At this stage, Pabbi was one of the troop leaders who's over here. He'll give you what all he experienced. Over to Pabbi.
So if you recollect that once this minefield in Thakurdwara was breached, the trolls were in tandem. These trolls were of 7th Cavalry, and our chaps went a line ahead to get across. They were fortunate. They got into the bridgehead across. Similarly, they had an odd casualty of tanks, but it was a very brave effort by C Squadron. There was no infantry ahead of it. Then similarly, as you know, that A Squadron was also inducted in the same bridgehead to broaden it up across the Thakurdwara minefield. And you know, the layouts of the villages was higher than what we were trailing on. And there were certain tanks which were dug in on both on the eastern side and the western side, sir. I would say when I'm mentioning eastern or western side, it is the lineup which B Squad had eventually, you know, being on the home side. So there, if you recollect, on the 6th morning, sir, there was a fierce F-16, nearly about 6, 7, 8 crafts which came on over the regiment, and they fired, and the Pakistanis from these far end with the tanks, they were hitting us. But we were quick enough, C Squadron and B Squadron, and we got hold of 4 tanks there across where they had got in. It is thereafter, on instructions, the C Squadron and then the A Squadron was getting across. We remained on the home bank. And if you recollect, sir, that thereafter, because the the flank on the eastern, the formation which was moving to Kari Nadi, if you relate, they could not cope up with the sort of an advance what we were making, and C Squadron was diverted to Chakra and Dehlra. And 8 grenadiers were good for them. I'm just touching this, sir, because then, you know, we will be able to get into the funnel where we want to go. When we had to go to. So here, after doing this there, and then C Squadron went there, they did very good operation there. You know, this place is awful. It was very good for the enemy. For us, it's took a lot of courage and time, and the tanks were getting bogged down. Again, C Squadron had a problem there, and they got hold of 3-4 tanks. And the 8 grenadiers were the people who was with them. There's something around those 2 days which you were talking about. That's then A Squadron was came down to Chamrola, if you recollect. And they came there, the missiles were firing at them. And then we were also moved out from this thing, and we went over to Darman. So it means at that location, C Squadron heading towards Dehlra and this place, Chakra, sir. Then it's us who moved next to in Darman. Now we all had to spend some time, and another task was given thereafter to A Squadron. They were told to go and capture Bari. Now C Squadron is sitting there in Chakra Dehlra, Bari, and the task probably given to them was Namapind, if you recollect, which 16 Madras.
16 Madras, sir.
Sorry?
16 Madras, sir.
Yeah, got it, sir. Got it, 16 Madras. 16 Madras.
Yes.
They exploited Namapind, moved to Chamrola thereafter.
Yes.
We were in Darman, whereas the main defenses of the Supal ditch was jutting out. And here we were 16 Dogras came in. And the company of the Rajrif, 18 Rajrif mechanized. Now, so this is
Mechanized,
the
yes, sir. 18 Rajputana rifles mechanized.
battle which we were rolling on. So C Squadron in Dehlra Chakra complex with the 8 grenadiers. Then it's A Squadron, which has gone up to Badapen, and likely, you know, they wanted to move up, but then they were shifted on to Chamrola. Then our squadron moved on further there towards the Supal ditch, and as I told you, we got the 16 Madras there.
I mean, what you're saying is right. I quite agree. Whether would you like to add anything?
Nothing, sir. Nothing there from there. We were, for a couple of days there was a lull for 4-5 days. There was a lull, and thereafter I recollect used to get up and take us for reconnaissance all around the places, so that knowing fully well that the strength of the striking thing of Hotsons was not so much available as we could take a regiment. So squadron being deployed here, squadron there. So thereafter, as you say, it's this. And I remember on the 15th, you tell that we would be going into with the 47th Brigade into the bridgehead, if I recollect. But that was cancelled then. Then it was the 16th, if I recollect, sir. And the instructions were given that Puno Horse will be inducted in with 47th Brigade across Basantar, sir. And you on 16th morning also, you were with the tank took from A Squadron, and you were seeing how things were there. And right or so, because we were the only people who were available for them to be inducted with 17 horse, subsequently, whatever it was. And So we saw on 16th itself, 16th, 15th, 16th night, sir, Punos went in with the 3rd
Grenadiers, sir.
Madras, and
16 Madras, 3rd.
16 holding on in Supal ditch.
Sir, if I may just stop you at this time, how deep into the enemy territory was Hodson's horse, was the regiment?
No,
Approximately.
Anil, what I'll say is, what probably brought out quite rightly is with regards to operations with regards to A Squadron and C Squadron. Quite rightly, with A Squadron moving into capture of Bari, then moving into Namapin. You see, they'd opened up the axis and they'd gone across the minefield. But there was another the second minefield they got on when they went on to Namapin.
You're right, sir. You're right, sir.
Opened the access further south, further into Pak territory. In the meantime, during this time, rightly, C Squadron off to capture for capture of Dehlra.
And sir, were there any casualties in crossing the minefield, sir?
Fortunately, you had tank casualties, but what was there was that your tank got damaged, but we did not have any physical casualties while going through the minefields.
No, I meant tank casualty only, sir.
Only tank casualties, no. Over here, I want to make out that while we were opposite Darman and Chamrola, we were firing. I want to highlight one point. We were firing into the enemy nests or whatever their potholes were through which they used to fire. They're from the Supwal ditch. This had a tremendous effect on the Pakistani, which I was told to be after the war when I met one of the officers on the borderline. He said, "Sir, your tanks played very hell into us." And I quite understand with a tank round landing just 1 foot or right foot or into the pothole of theirs, it knocks the hell out of you. And with this going on, if the attack onto the Basantar Bridge had not gone in, the next day they had already planned to leave the Supwal ditch. The damage done by the troops going forward and zeroing in their guns onto their potholes was so effective that your fire really knocks the hell out of the defender, and they were prepared to leave that position. That was one point which I got after the war, which I felt was very constructive and very educative, which I did not visualize. Other point is, while...
Sorry, sir.
Brigadier Butalia, sir, could you please just adjust so that your yes, much better, sir.
Yeah.
Now, sir, could we also bring out at what stage with how many enemy tanks were knocked out at which all stages, or tanks or any other assets? Brigadier Sandhu, sir.
I'll just tell you, because Bob was with the commandant that time. The A Squadron thereafter, which I said to Ramri, was sent to Ramri from Bari to Ramri with 91 Brigade. That is General Handu's state. And there again, you know, they were pushed through by the 9th Engineer Regiment, and their minefield was about 1,500 yards or so. So at that particular time, now you have to correlate this with the movement of C Squadron. You see, they had got the Chakra, this thing, and so they were made to shift a little towards the south, closer to A Squadron now, leaving few elements there, so that they are now giving some sort of a protection from the eastern side to A Squadron, where A Squadron was fighting this battle of 91 Brigade. And this was, I think it was around 14th. And Chief Colonel was also given a task, go a little south now to Chakra and Reval, if I remember that village. And good coordination by the A Squadron and C Squadron was seen there, or at least we heard about it on the sets. Bindi would know much more, much better than me. Now, that is where I said, I repeated earlier also, that initially 47 Brigade gave orders of Jasbir Squadron to get into the bridgehead, but that was made null and void, because this is why I just want to explain that on various, because we have to dominate the highway, or so-called highway, from Zafarwal, Dhamtal, that one. And all this,
yes, sir.
which was done by 20 Lancers till we hit the Basantar. If you see, like General Jasbir saying, okay, we to there, then at Thakurdwara, we got hold of about 4 tanks there. Then there's the Barkhania minefield, which Brigadier Jasbir is saying rightly so, and that was all to be it. Then thereafter, Pune Horse was, now we are all there now on the ground, whereas Pune Horse had to roll in with 47 Brigade, and there on 16th, 15th, 16th night, they moved into the bridgehead with 16 Madras and 3rd Grenadiers, right? And their movement in this thing, by first light, they were in the bridgehead, says a lot of documents. And onto, now this bridgehead is coming between Jarpal and Surajchak, okay, on the banks of, on the far banks of Basantar. Now, then, as you see,
for viewers, if I may just, for our viewers, if I may just elaborate, sir, that Basantar is the river which runs north of Samba, between Pathankot and Jammu, approximately halfway is Samba. North of Samba, the Basantar runs into Pakistan and then becomes, it got, after partition, it got named as Deg Nadi.
That's right.
So this is what we are trying to, and it is on this river that a brigade was formed, and 4 Horse was a major, major task of 4 Horse was to establish this brigade, which it did, and that is what broke the back of Pakistan in because we could further our operation. Brigadier Butalia, sir.
Yes, and hello. Is my voice coming?
If you could describe what your scenario was, sir.
I would like to touch upon the crossing of the minefield at Thakurdwara by C Squadron first.
Sir.
Throughout the day, the conventional form of warfare at that time dictated that at night an infantry brigade would assault across the minefield, establish a bridgehead, and the armor would be inducted thereafter into a secure area secured by the infantry. But for 5 or 6 hours during the day proceeding, Major G.T. Chaudhary was insistent that there was no requirement for an infantry brigade to attack and he could cross the minefield. So I was there with C Squadron when Brigadier Vaidya, then Commander 16 Independent Armored Brigade,
yes, sir,
there to see for himself as to what the possibility of doing this operation was. And I think this briefing by Major Chaudhary barely lasted a few minutes, and it ended by Major Chaudhary asking the brigade commander, "Sir, do I have your okay to launch this attack?" And Brigadier Vaidya said, "How long will you take, GT?" He says, "Sir, I presume I have your okay." So before the brigade commander could say anything, he had a radio set in his hand and he just passed an order into it, "Move now out." And with that, the troll tanks were rolling, and this very peculiar attack going in line ahead, more or less, with a troop of tanks across, which was caught napping. All of them were destroyed within no time at all. And one complete night was saved because Peace Cordon was
Because
across
this
in
crossing
half an
was done during the day.
Nothing was done during the day. There's odd shelling and all going on, and plans were being made to induct infantry across and so on and so forth. And they were moving to their forward assembly areas when this particular action happened. And it's difficult to believe, but this crossing was achieved. There was with one casualty. So one of the tank commanders was a little careless and he wasn't wearing a helmet, and a piece of shrapnel hit him on his head.
Oh.
So that is possibly the first assault across a minefield by anyone post the Second World War without engineers first clearing a lane through it. So I thought that this aside might
It's
add up to everyone's knowledge.
this is what one was waiting to be brought out, sir, because what we are trying to establish here is that the all unusual aspects. The regiment has been known for very often being put into situations where being launched when a situation has changed. Plans are made in war, they don't always fructify, and very often they have to be changed. And it has been I think it's happened very often with our regiment that it was planned to do a particular operation, but it was at the last minute, its plans were changed, and yet always it, by God's grace, delivered, and sometimes more and faster than the superior commander's expectations. Sir.
I think one more, sorry.
Okay.
While you are on the subject, I might like to add something more unusual happened when the regimental headquarters crossed into the Basantar bridgehead behind Peace Cordon. The brigade headquarters tank troop was put under command. I don't think this has ever happened before, that the brigade headquarters troop has been put under command of a regiment. And even more strangely, the defenses on the Supal took a hammering from the brigade headquarters troop, which fired off almost all the ammunition, knocking off all the bunkers which may have been left behind by Brigadier Jasbir.
I'll just add over here. I want to say, interesting took place when we went for the initial recce for the operation for the Basantar bridgehead. Because initially only Peace Cordon was under command, 47 Infantry Brigade. That we went for the recce, and I had, knowing the way the infantry function, that's where I got cut off, so I'm going back over there. We were going for the recce and we came across a nala and we could not cross. So I asked Kabul, who was commanding Ace Cordon, for a tank. We jumped across, the nearest tank belonged to Ace Cordon. So we asked him if we could take the tank. He said, all right. I said, I'm just going for a recce and I'll come back, and he went back over here. So the tank commander was Lakwant Singh Saab, I told him to stay. I told the driver to stay. I said, operator out, gunner out. I got into a commander's seat and I had Pammi and one more troop leader with me. I'm forgetting now. Pammi would remember. And we went for the recce.
Pammi is Brigadier Sandhu.
Sandhu.
Hey,
Yes.
I'll still remain.
So I'm going back to 71.
Sure.
So then when we went around, there was a village, and I just thought I'd go around and have a closer look at the defenses the other side. And as we went around the village, we came under fire. The round went over. Immediately, I realized, so I told the driver left, and we went into a location, which was the Shakargarh field, and we were there. And the tank followed us and kept firing. He fired the first round, he fired the second round, he fired the third round. All were going over our head. And I was certain that having missed 3 rounds, we were under fire and we could not locate him. We searched everywhere through the binoculars, through the Type 10 binoculars, but we could not locate him. He had fired 5 rounds by now, and maybe even the 6th one. When I saw, when I was looking through the binoculars, I saw a 1 foot by 1 foot shine. That's what one had learned when one was in NDA, shape, shadow, shine, when you want to camouflage. The shine caught my eye, and just while I was observing more carefully, he fired the next round. All the rounds went over our head, same distance. Got onto the gunner seat, the gunner was out, Pammi helped in the loading, and second round, we got onto the target was hit. Now, what was the reason? It's an important point to note both for the armor and also for the infantry. The tank was at a dug-in position. As a result of the dug-in position, what was there? When he fired, with the shock of the charge, there was so much dust being picked up that he could not observe where his round was going. Alternatively, he might have also had the problem. Being dug in too much, he could not depress his gun anymore as we were in the river down below. But basically, your camouflage was the shine which one learned in NDA, and the fact that he had got into a position, defensive position. If we dig it deep, doesn't mean that you are protected. You may be protected to a limited amount, but it should not affect your fire. That was a lesson which one learned from there. We came back, and as we got back, we were told that day that we were to stand down and Pune Horse would be inducted for the capture of the Basantar bridgehead. The attack went in the next night. The attack was delayed by 24 hours, so it went in the next night. And next morning, early morning, 8 o'clock, we got information that we were to move into the bridgehead, as also hold the line opposite the Supal bridge. So we left 2 troops behind with Charjit to look after them, and with the other 2 troops, we went into the bridgehead. There, the bridgehead situation was such at that time that Pune Horse 2 squads were toward the Supal bridge. B squad was at
Jatpal.
left towards the T-Grenadier location, which was at Jatpal. So when they were there, we found a gap, we moved in. And I remember, I want to highlight one thing. There, when I moved in, I saw 1 tank of Pune Horse sticking up. It was a very awkward tank, and I thought, who's this chap? There's a lone tank sticking up. So I thought must be some new NCO made as a tank commander who didn't really understand the tactics and did not know how to deploy the tank. Another 15 minutes, I saw a flash and I saw this tank hit. Forgot about it. It was only much later after war that I realized that it was Ketapal's tank.
That's true.
It was
The point I'm making over here is
who's Arun Ketapal, sir?
Yes, it was Arun Khetapal's tank.
Arun Khetapal's tank. Okay.
So the point I'm trying to make over here, that to give a person command of a tank is not that easy. It's not like you've done your platoon training in infantry, you could command a platoon. Over here, unless you do your YOs, you really do not understand the tactics and the gunnery of that tank, which are very important. However, we went that position. And after, I could see a lot of dust going off, a lot in the distance to the west. There was a certain amount of trees and all that. Behind that, we could see a lot of dust. So I knew the enemy is up to something after seeing this. After about another hour, I saw a dust column going well to our right, beyond the support ridge. And typical like our drill, there were 7 tanks. They were in a proper line. They did a neutral turn to face us. The dust settled. The crew came out, must have dusted their berets, looked around, got their bearings correct again, reconfirmed. And I could see those are typical actions which you take for a counterattack. I knew straight away we were in for a counterattack. Another 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes, I saw the second wave come in, form up behind them.
Yes.
I knew we were in for a counterattack. At that time, there was only Pami's troop, one more JSU's troop, and 7 tanks. We saw them coming. I given instructions that nobody will open fire till I give orders. Something, my thought process was very clear. I wanted them to come within range, and I was more concerned about the second wave. As we're about 1300-1400 yards, one of the gunners got a little shaky and he opened fire. Saab aage, and he opened fire. The moment he opened fire, I kept quiet. And just 3 minutes before the complete first wave was shut up. The second wave, this was all about their range, must have been 1300-1400 yards when we shut them. The second wave, which was good 600-700 yards behind, stopped immediately. We tried to engage them, but they reversed and went out of range. It took another 10 minutes, 15 minutes, when I was already telling, when I saw those tanks forming up, I had informed the CEO that I would like the other 2 troops to be released so that they can join me, and we are coming under pressure, and I could see counterattack building up. We got reinforcements by way of the adjutants and the 2 IC tank. Thereafter, at night, we held that position. We were very happy because we had very good fields of fire, and we had complete command of that area. We moved back, and then at night, we were told that A squad was inducted in, and that the 2 IC was to coordinate the induction and positioning of A squad. In the meantime, Pune Horse, B squad had their way. They were clamoring the whole day to leave Jatpal. They were released, and Pune Horse was to look in the direction of the Supwal bridge, and we were given the balance of the bridge, including Jatpal. C squad, B squad, A squad was to move into B squad location, and B squad was to change their location, go onto Jatpal side, which was located by B squad, Pune Horse. That night, I was under quite a dilemma as to what to do. Because my sixth sense told me that next morning we would be under the counterattack in that area. Somehow I felt that area dicey and a lot of enemy pressure onto that area. 1. 2, it is not easy to position tanks before dawn. It's dark, and it was more difficult in this case because the infantry was the front. And it's just very difficult for a squad commander to bear the brunt, to realize that one of your tanks, by mistake, has run over enemy trench and you kill your own men. That was weighing up very heavily on me. So while pondering over it, when this thing happened, Kulvederi was claiming, I want armor. He wanted armor very strongly in his location at night.
Ved Eri, sir, if you may clarify, was a commanding officer of 3rd Grenadiers,
Grenadiers. You're right. You see your 3 Grenadiers. Where they do commanding 3 Grenadiers.
Lieutenant Colonel B.P. Airy.
Yeah, way there. So, moment he was clapping, I was under dilemma what to do and how to position my tanks well before first line. So then I thought the best for me to do is, okay, I said, I'll send you a troop. He was thrilled. I said, what if I give you 2? He said, I can't ask for anything more. Why I said 2 was, on my 4 troops, I'll send 2 troops. So I earmarked Pami and 1 more troop. I said, Pami, you lead. Go and occupy positions to the north of the village. The reason for that is, I knew one side of the village my tanks would be in position. I told them to give them the area and they would deploy. While I moved with the balance of the squadron to the other side of the village, deploy. And once they lighted, I could then go and see the positions of all the tanks and adjust whatever is required. But at least my tanks will be in their initial positions to take on anything if it happened at dawn. I had a feeling there would be dawn attack. However, we went into positions. As we were moving into positions, the enemy started shouting, Hamla aa gaya, Hamla aa gaya, Hamla. 3 Grenadiers was attacked by a Pak battalion from Barapin. Barapin was just approximately 1,000 yards from village Jetpal. As we were moving in, the Pakistanis realized that we are in, and with the infantry telling us, we got into action straight away with our commander's FG and our gunner's FG. From about 5:30 in the morning till 8 o'clock in the morning, or even 8:30, there was a constant battle going on and exchange of fire. But the battalion was decimated. That's when I realized why the infantry is very scared of machine guns. They are a very effective weapon and cause havoc with the infantry. And more so when you from a tank are firing. It's a very effective weapon because the 6 MGs from the tank, and then you had 6 MGs from the commander's MG. After the attack, I want to highlight, I was keen to meet the company commander because I could not get to the CO till very early, taking the area with him and see if he and I were both on grid with regards to the...
Are you referring to then Major Hoshar Singh, sir?
No, I'm coming on to that. So I was keen to meet till very early so that I could not make contact with him on the radio. So while this was going in, I was I thought, let me get on to there were a few trenches behind, so I asked them to call the company commander. As I looked for the company commander, in the meantime, there was a fair exchange of fires and my own tank had been hit. I do not know by a round, but I was like, with the shock of discharge, I was thrown down. And I got up, quickly got back into the tank. And as I moved my tank about 50 yards behind, an AP round went clean through in front of me and onto the tank on my left, which was at that time being occupied by the RTOP. Fortunately, the turret was safe, but the round went clean through the engine compartment.
If I may, sir, just clarify that for our viewers. When you said an AP round, it's an armor-piercing shell passed your tank and went and hit the tank next to yours.
On my left, through the engine, complete a neat hole, and the engine was a complete casualty, and the tank was a complete casualty.
Okay.
So, well, we got over those moments. Then I asked for the company commander. I got onto a turret and was about to jump down when I saw Shah coming towards me so that I could speak to him, tie up the details regarding my present position, and then also get out to the CO to tie up the other defenses. As I was about to land, I got down to the ground, a shell landed. That got Hushard by the knee. And he became a casualty, he collapsed there. He was injured. 2-3 people from the trenches came running. promptly collected him, took him back. And I felt sad for him, but from my side, at least now I'll have the battalion commander coming till where Delhi, whom I not met. So Peshawar was evacuated, and I spoke to the CO to get to know the feel of the targets, the deployment the other side. I went with him. We saw the area, and after seeing the area, one was deployed, one was settled down. This fighting, and we were under constant attack, both was the Barapan side, then on the other side, till about midday. After midday, things slightly cooled off. And the next day, we were still in the same positions. I felt comfortable because I had a battalion around me as a squadron. And in case any other activity took place, I was confident we as a squadron could take them on. But that is how, well, I can say I did see Yoshar getting wounded and was there to look him up.
Sir, Brigadier Butalia, sir, you
Yes.
were the intelligence officer and regimental signals officer. Would you give a little bit of a overall picture, sir? Of
Well,
what
I think-
of what the regiment achieved by the end of it was a 13-day war, sir. 13 to 3rd till 16th.
I think Brigade Jasbir has covered most of it. Overall, when the casualties were measured and things of that sort, I think the regiment had destroyed 26 or 27 tanks. And I think as far as RCLs and fortifications and things of that sort was concerned, no one was really bothered about the numbers. We just wanted people to stop firing. And the one thing that on the other side of the village of Saranchak, I might like to mention is that we had got a message that fire was coming on to 16 Madras from the Sukwal ditch. And this was just after the second counterattack, which Brigadier Jasbir just spoke about, had finished off. So I asked the CO, I said, should I go across and see what they require? Because there was no way we could immediately send a tank out there, because you didn't know what was next as from in line for us from the Pakistan 8 Independent Armed Brigade. So I walked across this deserted or destroyed village of Saranchak, and on the far end, I may mention I didn't even have a map with me. I was just confident I'd reach.
Brigadier Butalia, sir, anything that you'd like to add or bring out as a conclusion that which brings us to what the achievement of the regiment was, because it has been written and also reiterated by many that the regiment did very well. And if we could just say, well, you just brought out that we destroyed about 27 enemy tanks and many other assets. Could you also throw some light on the awards that were won by our personnel, sir? Brigadier Jasbir Singh, we know, was awarded a Sena Medal.
No.
The then commanding officer, then Lieutenant Colonel R.M. Vora, got a Mahavir Chakra.
We had both the squad commanders, Alpha and Charlie, getting V chakras with
That is,
and there were about 4 other people who got awarded.
There's
Major
also
Kamalnanda and
Govind Singh.
Govind Singh, sir.
So I just say one thing that came out here, that the normal concept prior to Centurion War, that if you had the DCB, could not be penetrated and it give you tremendous advantage over the defenses, was proved how vulnerable it is. And what I say is, you don't even have to go into it. All that you do is zero in your guns onto these potholes which they have, and you shake the hell out of the infantry holding elements. Their will to fight, everything goes down, and capturing that obstacle is no longer all that difficult. Even if the attack had not gone in, which definitely we did not know, but they are planning to abandon the DCB on their own. This a lesson to be learned, that you don't have to assault, incur casualties, and then capture the objective. There are other ways of doing it, by plain simple active fire. That's what I want to do.
I'd like to thank you also. We've lost Brigadier Sandhu because of a technical problem. But anyway, I would like to thank you all for recalling some great moments of the regiment, and we all look forward to meeting in a few days when Basantar Day will be celebrated in the regiment. All the best
Thank
to
you.
all of you.
Thank you, Anil. It was a pleasure being with you.